Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to this session on management program. In this session, as well as in the next session, we'll be discussing your course in marketing, that's Marketing of Services MS65. I thought rather than taking up a particular topic of MS65, why not give you an overview of what marketing of services is all about. It's, you can say something like, maybe you've seen certain books which say MBA in 90 days or MBA in 60 days, something like that, which give you an overview of what MBA program is. So I thought, why not give you an overview of this particular course, maybe something like marketing of services in 90 minutes. So with that philosophy, this session and the next session, I would be giving you an overview on marketing of services, MS65, the course material which has 5 blocks. So rather than going into specificities, I would be touching upon some of the essential elements, some key features of marketing of services, so that by the end of this program, you will get some overall feel of marketing of services and how is it different from other areas of marketing. So with that philosophy, I will be taking up. So whatever slides I would be showing, there is no particular sequence for that. It's not that one has to come after another. So I prepared some 20 slides or so, which give you some sort of feeling of marketing of services. Now, before going into specific issues related to this particular course, I'll give you some details about how services are becoming increasingly important in today's world. Of course, your course material also talks about it. The first block of MS65, within that, the first unit talks about basic introduction to services marketing, and second unit talks about role of services in economy, which gives you importance of services in economy of a nation. Just consider your own daily routine. Don't think of any course material or any book. Just think of your routine and try to see how services affect your daily life. Things like entertainment, education, transportation, hospital services, recreation, you name it, and maybe every day you would be using one service or another. Your family members would be using different types of services. And if you see role of services in nations' economies, most of the developed world countries, you talk of United States, you talk of most of the Western European countries, you talk of Japan, Canada, all of them have almost 65 to 70% of their GDP coming from services. If we come closer to India, India as such now, for the last few years, more than 50% of India's GDP is contributed by services. Now, figure is moving towards 60% now. So, 60% of India's GDP is contributed by services sector. Now, that gives you an importance of how important or how crucial services are to any nation. But the question arises, why should we have a separate course on marketing of services? Of course, we have a course on basic marketing, then we have a course on product management, sales management, which of course give details about marketing related to different products. So why is it necessary to have a separate course on marketing of services? The reason being, services are a bit different from tangible goods. So logical question would be, how? How services are different from tangible goods? Now, there are certain characteristics which make services different from tangible goods. When I say tangible goods, think like, say, a soft drink or a soap or a television set or a refrigerator or a washing machine. So those basically are tangible goods. And when I talk of services, as I said, it could include health services, educational services, entertainment services, recreational services, financial services, and so on. Now, services primarily differ from tangible goods on 4 counts. I'll just briefly touch upon these points rather than going into details of all these points. First is the intangibility aspect. Services predominantly are intangible. You can't see, touch, or feel a service. So someone actually defined service as, rather than going into details, he said services are something which cannot be dropped on your foot, which basically highlight the intangible dominance in case of services as compared to tangible good. You want to buy a television set, you can walk into a showroom, see the television set physically, see its reception, sound quality, how it looks like, but can you do the same for health services? Can you do the same for educational services? Maybe it's not possible. Similarly, maybe you want to buy a motorcycle or a car, you can go to a showroom, check for its physical attributes, test drive a bike or a car, but can you test a health service? Again, not possible. So it's the intangibility aspect which differentiates services from goods. Second aspect is the heterogeneity aspect. Tangible goods, you can have a strict quality control in the factory. A refrigerator coming out of a factory, you can have quality checks. If it's not up to the standard, maybe some improvement can be made, or it can be removed as a reject. So that you can be sure that even product number 1 to product number 1 lakh or 1 million is exactly of this same specification. But now think of services. You visit a bank today to withdraw cash, and the bank teller responded in a particular way. Can you be sure that when you visit the bank next time, maybe a week or 10 days or 15 days later, you will get the same response from the bank teller? Or maybe you visited a doctor or a nursing home, you got a certain response. Could you be sure that if you visit after another 2 months or 3 months, you will get exactly the same response? Maybe not. So therefore, services are heterogeneous. Of course, there are strategies to standardize also, but generally speaking, especially labor-intensive services are heterogeneous. So quality of service may vary from day to day, maybe from even hour to hour. A bank teller right at 10 o'clock in the morning versus say 3:30 in the afternoon, maybe his response won't be the same. So it may vary from day to day, within a day, from time to time, and from provider to provider. Within the same service provider, for example, maybe you are patronizing a particular bank. Today, one particular person is sitting in cash teller. Another would be sitting. Now, the response of the two may be different. So, services are heterogeneous. Third point which makes services different from goods is that services are inseparable. Provider and receiver have to be at the same point. Unlike manufactured goods, wherein goods are manufactured in a factory, shipped to a warehouse, maybe then moved to retail shops, wherein you go and buy the goods. In case of services, in most of the services, you have to be physically present. Maybe service production and consumption that takes place simultaneously. You go for a haircut or you visit a doctor, the actual production and consumption, while it is being produced, you are consuming it. So unlike tangible goods, services are inseparable from the provider. And the fourth one is the perishability aspect, which is one of the key components in case of services. And when you devise any marketing strategies, this particular point that services are perishable becomes very crucial. Again, throughout this discussion which we'll be having today, we'll go by examples. I won't go too much into theory, but the actual examples. How services are perishable. For example, an aircraft, say it has a capacity of 200 passengers, but maybe 150 are occupied. So the aircraft takes off with 150 passengers. So that capacity of 50 remains unutilized. You can't do anything about it. A movie theater, say, has a capacity of 500, but the actual customers maybe say 300. So that 200 customers, 200 seats which are not filled up in a particular show, that particular capacity is lost forever. Now, does that happen in case of tangible goods also? Give it a thought. No, it doesn't happen in tangible goods. Take even a seasonal product like desert cooler, wherein demand is, say, in the months of, say, April to June, the peak demand. But still manufacturers can manufacture it in the month of November, December, keep on storing them. Of course, there would be inventory costs, but they can keep on storing it so that when there is a peak demand, they will be able to meet that demand. So services are different from tangible goods because of its intangibility, inseparability, heterogeneity, and perishability. But again, please bear it in mind, there are no pure tangible goods or pure services. It's basically a mix. So when we talk of services, they are basically intangibility dominated, and when we talk of tangible goods, they are essentially tangibility dominated. For example, even in case of, say, television or a refrigerator, when you buy it, of course you are buying a tangible good, but along with that you also see what sort of after-sale service is there, what sort of warranty is given, which essentially are services. Similarly, in case of services, say for example airline services, what sort of food you get, what sort of aircrafts they have, so there are tangible components. So it's the relative dominance of tangibility versus intangibility which distinguish goods from services. Now, because services are intangible, and controlling quality, having standardized quality also becomes a big challenge. Now, how does quality issue differ in case of tangible goods as compared to services? In case of services, when we talk of quality, from consumer's point of view, evaluating quality is a little bit more difficult as compared to evaluating quality in case of goods. As I said, you could test drive a car, you could actually see the physical attributes of a product, but in case of service, it's not possible. Also, when you talk of services, it's not just the outcome which you evaluate as a consumer, but also how the service was delivered. Maybe the outcome is okay, but the way you were treated by the service provider, that may not be good, which may result in overall dissatisfaction. So quality issues as well as overall marketing issues would be a little bit different in case of services as compared to tangible goods. In fact, considering the dominance of services in today's economy, some of the marketers and academicians have said maybe 10 years down the line, there may be just a basic course on marketing and not a separate course on marketing of services. But that basic course on marketing would primarily include things on marketing of services, and maybe 1 or 2 chapters could be on marketing of tangible goods, which is reverse of the position which we have today. In basic marketing courses nowadays, we have primarily literature devoted to tangible goods and with 1 or 2 chapters on marketing of services. So essentially, services are a little bit different from tangible goods. If you could look at your slides, it will give you an overall impression about how services are different. Service is much more than processing customers and their orders. How is it different? It is the appearance of the facilities, the behavior of employees, the presence of other customers, and the impressions made when customers come into contact with all these elements. Essentially, these things make services and marketing of services a little bit different, and maybe, if I'm allowed to say so, a little bit more challenging as compared to marketing of tangible goods. Now, because of these attributes, the behavior of employees, the appearance of facilities, the impression when customer gets in touch with facilities, it was felt that in case of marketing of services, the traditional 4 Ps, which you are familiar with, you must have studied in your MS6 course, that is product, price, place, and promotion. These 4 Ps are not sufficient for marketing of services. And therefore, 3 more Ps were added to marketing mix elements for marketing of services, making 7 Ps in case of services marketing. Now, what are these essential additional 3 Ps which are required in case of marketing of services, which were not there in case of marketing of tangible goods? These 3 P are the people element, and when I say people, it includes the customer who is receiving the service, it includes the employees who are providing the service, as well as the other customers who are present in the service environment. So it's not just the receiver or just the provider and receiver, but all other customers also who are present. So that includes the element of people. Another element is the physical evidence. Physical evidence basically means all tangible items included in production and delivery and consumption of services. And a wide range. When we talk of physical evidence, it could include a wide range. And range like food in an airlines, the uniform worn by hospital employees, the passbook or the checkbook given by a bank, the statement sent by a mutual fund, the promotional literature given by an educational institute, the actual building of a college or a university, the parking available in a theater. All these are physical evidence elements. And the last P, the 7th P included in marketing of services, is the process element. How the services are delivered. The actual flow, this sequence of activities through which services are delivered. Therefore, when we talk of marketing of services, we are talking of 7 different marketing mix elements. In addition to 4 Ps, the traditional 4 Ps of product, price, place, and promotion, we have additional 3 Ps, people, process, and physical evidence. Now, because of these elements, in fact, when we talk of services marketing and management, it is said it's not just marketing, but it is a trinity of 3 different disciplines within management. So when we talk of services marketing, it essentially includes marketing, HRM, and operations. So it's a trinity of the three disciplines when we talk of services marketing or services management. And that's why when we talk of marketing of services, we say it's not just one marketing, but marketing of services includes three different types of marketing. And what are those? One is the traditional marketing, the external marketing, wherein a company addresses itself to the external customer. You are communicating, you are offering a particular thing, those sort of elements. Second is the interactive marketing. Basically, interaction between service provider and service receiver, the customer and the service provider, the interaction which takes place between the two. In fact, in high contact services, this may become an extremely crucial aspect. How employees react or give service to the customer. And the third element, when we talk of marketing, the external marketing, the interactive marketing, the third is the internal marketing. Unless you address those issues to your internal customers, that's your employees, unless the employees are convinced what is to be offered, you can't guarantee a good service to your customers. So you talk of internal marketing, which is between the management and the employees. You talk about the external marketing, that is company and the customers. And you talk of interactive marketing, which is between the employees and the customers, essentially the frontline employees. So all three elements, it's in fact a services marketing triangle, wherein at three different points you would be having the management, the employees and the customers. So all three sides, the internal marketing, the external marketing and the interactive marketing are crucial to the company. So if one side collapses, the entire triangle collapses. So in order to be successful as marketeers, you have to be successful on all the three fronts: the external marketing front, the internal marketing front and the interactive marketing front. Now, as I said, the slides which I would be showing to you, it's not a particular sequence, or I'm not going chapter wise. It's essentially some key things about services marketing, so that you get an overall feeling of it and some basic issues related to services marketing. If you go through the next slide, which says, very simple one, customer satisfaction is a function of expectations and perceptions, both of which can be influenced by the marketeer. As I said earlier, in case of services marketing, you talk of both how the services are delivered and the outcome also. So how do the customers judge quality of service? So basically it says customers judge quality of services both on the basis of expectation and perception. Expectation means what a customer thinks he should get. Again, think yourself as a customer for services. You want, maybe your children want to join a particular school, you want to send them in a particular college, or you want to take services of a particular bank. All of us have some sort of expectation that this is what I expect from this service provider. And perception actually is what exactly we think when we actually avail their services, that how it has been delivered. Now, important issue from marketeer's point of view is, as I written, that even the expectations can be influenced by marketeers. Perceptions, of course, you can think that perceptions, how you deliver the service, would definitely, as marketeer, you can influence. But how do you influence expectations? Give it a thought. As marketeers, can you even influence the expectations of the customers? What customers expect from a service provider? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible that as marketeers you can even influence the expectations of customers. Now how? To judge that or to explain that, you have to think in terms of how a customer frames his expectations. Again, don't try to go into any theories. Think yourself as a customer of services. You want to avail of services from a provider. How would you frame your expectation? Or how do you frame your expectations? One, of course, is your personal need. Since I want this, I expect service provider to provide that. Fine. Maybe on that, to a great effect, marketeer may not have influence. Again, that's also debatable. Even needs, your personal needs could be influenced by marketeers, but to some extent. Another important point based on which you frame your expectations is the marketing communication. For example, when you see an advertisement, a particular company promising you particular thing, of course then you would expect that that particular company would be delivering the service based on that. For example, if an airline says we are 99% on time, so your expectation would be that when you avail of services of that airline, the flight should take off in time. If a bank says, maybe through advertisement or maybe through a display in the bank branch, that payment against check would be made within 5 minutes, or a draft will be issued within 15 minutes. So that means you will frame your expectations. So when you request for a draft, you would expect that the draft will be delivered to you within 15 minutes. As compared to another bank, maybe which says draft will take 20 minutes, so your expectation would be made accordingly. So marketing communication play a key role in customers framing their expectations. Another thing is image of the organization. That also plays a crucial role based on which customers frame their expectations. Similarly, another important aspect, word of mouth communication, which I'll be taking up a little bit later also, which play a very crucial role in case of services as contrasted to goods. What people say about the services. For example, your friend comes to you and tells you about a particular movie or a doctor, that the doctor is very good, his diagnosis is good, he keeps appointment on time, so you frame your expectations accordingly. Then you expect if you visit that doctor, he'll be available in time. You will have a good diagnosis and treatment. So word of mouth also helps in framing the expectations. But important point from marketer's point of view is, as marketeers, you can influence the word of mouth, you can influence the type of image you want to create for an organization, and definitely marketing communication is within your control. So you should appreciate that as marketeers, you can not only influence what sort of perceptions customers have about your services, but you can also influence the expectations. I'll give you an example. The practical example which happened in airline industry in United States. Long time back, there were frequent delays in case of airline services, and those delays were beyond the control of airlines. It was more to do with the air traffic control at the ground rather than the airlines themselves. So what the airlines did, which really happens very rarely, that all airlines came together and issued advertisements for basically targeted at public, telling that why these delays are taking place and to what extent they are responsible. And they highlighted that they are not responsible for these delays. So next time when a customer would come in who knows about all these facts, his expectations about timely arrival and departure would be slightly lower as compared to if that information was not provided. So therefore, what you communicate to your customers become extremely important. Otherwise, if you don't take care, then what may happen is, that's what is given in the next slide, which says, when advertising claims promise customers what the business cannot deliver, customer become disenchanted with the business, and management might conclude erroneously that advertising is a waste of time. Now, if that slide may please be shown, the next slide. Again, I'll repeat, when advertising claims promise customers what the business cannot deliver, customers become disenchanted with the business, and management might conclude wrongly that advertising is a waste of time. Now, that's why the customers would frame his expectation based on what the promise management has given, whereas there is a mismatch between the promise and what is actually being delivered. That means what as service providers you have to do is, you have to match your external communication with the customers and your service delivery. Again, let's go by examples. A courier service. If a courier service says sure and guaranteed deliveries of packet within 24 hours, and that is heavily advertised, but the packets are not delivered. So rather than blaming the advertisement that customers, despite such a good advertisement, customers are not coming, the fact is that customers had expectation that within 24 hours it will be delivered, whereas actually it is not being delivered. So that's a gap basically. Gap between what a customer thinks he should get and what the customer feels he is getting. And the challenge to marketeers is to bridge this gap. Gap between the customer's expectations on one hand and the customer perception, what he thinks he is getting. There would be, of course, bridging this gap 100% may not be possible. What a customer thinks he should get and what he is getting, but the target of marketers should be to bridge it or to bring it as close as possible. Now, why I have said that it may not be possible all the times to bridge this gap? One, expectations of customers are not static. They keep on changing. You promise something today, customer then take it for granted, maybe his expectations may become higher, or competitor is offering something else, so his expectations go high. So basically you have to chase those expectations and do a systematic effort as to how you can know what customer wants and how to deliver that. And to bridge that gap between what the customer wants and what he thinks he is getting, basically you have to initiate a number of steps. Not that simple. It may be very easy to say that bridge the gap between the two, that what customer wants and what he thinks he is getting, you bridge the two. So not that easy. In fact, the entire services marketing course would be devoted to strategies related to this. But what sort of gaps are possible? One may be customer wants something, but as provider you don't know that. That means you are not even clear of what the customer wants. If you don't know what the customer wants, how can you deliver as per his expectations? Another cause could be you know what the customer wants, but your service quality specifications do not match with that. I know the customer wants this particular thing to be done in 5 minutes, but I won't do it. Maybe I'll do it in 10 minutes. Reasons could be many. It's not possible to do in 5 minutes. I cannot devote so many resources to that. It's not feasible. Services are low price, so I won't deliver it in 5 minutes. Those sort of things. So it could be maybe lack of commitment from the top, lack of maybe say feasibility is not there, or different issues. Another reason for the gap could be, okay, you may have quality standards which are as per customer expectation, but the quality standards are not actually delivered. There could be a number of reasons for that. Some of the reason we'll be taking up later on. And of course another gap which I touched upon just now, gap between what you are delivering and what you are promising to the customer. The external communication and the actual delivery. If there is a gap between the two, there definitely would be a gap between what the customer expects and what he thinks he is getting. If we move on to the next slide, it says dissatisfied customers might not report concerns to the service business, but they do tell their family, friends and other acquaintances. Why I have written this particular line? The reason is the importance of word of mouth communication in case of services. Again, if I go back to the basics, how services are different from goods. There are 3 different types of qualities which are talked about. Your first block, your last unit of the first block give these details. The search qualities, the experience qualities and the credence qualities. Search quality essentially are those qualities which can be evaluated prior to purchase. Maybe you can see a tangible good, you could touch it, feel it, just operate it. Tangible goods essentially are rich in such qualities. Services, as you would appreciate, are not. Second is the experience qualities. Qualities which you can judge only when you experience a particular thing. You have visited a doctor, actually undergone the treatment, or you have actually undergone a flight, or actually gone by train to a particular place, then only you can make a judgment. These are called experience qualities. Another quality is the credence qualities. Certain qualities which you cannot even judge, even after consuming or after utilizing or after making use of the service. Can you think of some examples of credence qualities? For example, health services. Even after the treatment, you may not be 100% sure whether the line of treatment which was given to me was actually correct. Maybe okay, you are cured also, but whether that particular thing or all those sequence of things which was done, were those essential? Or automobile repairing. Okay, final proof is now your bike or your car is working well, but still you are not sure whether whatever has been done for which you have been charged, whether that was actually required. So services essentially are rich in experience and credence qualities. And when a product is rich in experience and credence qualities, then rather than relying more on advertisements, you rely on more on what others say about that particular service. You would ask your friend which doctor is good or which mechanic is good. You will ask people in your society or in your neighborhood about a particular school or a particular college. You may ask your friends about a movie, whether I should go to that movie or not, whether it's good or not. Whereas in case of tangible goods, of course, again, in tangible goods also you take views of others, but you could yourself walk into showroom and see for yourself. So that basically highlights the importance of word of mouth communication. Therefore, next logical thing is that one should never assume that customers who do not speak up are happy customers. So don't be in that particular illusion that my customers are not complaining to me, so they are all very happy customers. No. So essentially, most of the customers would not complain to the provider. Either they may defect from the service provider in case alternatives are available, or they would talk negative about your services to their friends, colleagues and neighborhood. So don't be in that illusion. If you are not receiving complaints, that means everything is going fine. Because reason being, the greater majority of dissatisfied customers never complain to management or staff. In fact, some studies in United States have given some empirical figures also, that hardly 4 to 5% of the dissatisfied customers, they report it to management. Therefore, they have to be encouraged to voice their dissatisfaction. Maybe sounding a bit paradox, that as service provider, you encourage your customers to complain against you. So basically voicing the dissatisfaction means it's a complaint. So as marketeers, what you would be required to do is encouraging your customers to complain against you. Now basic philosophy underlying this particular concept is that as marketeers, you should treat a complaint as a gift which the customer is giving to you. And if it is a gift, if a complaint is a gift, that means someone who is giving that complaint is a friend, because you receive gifts from your friends. So a complaint is to be treated as a gift, and one who complains has to be treated as a friend. Reason being, again, it is not just something hypothetical. If someone complains, it gives you two different opportunities. What are those two? First, of course, to set right that particular complaint. A customer is angry, something right was not done to him, and he tells you, then you have an opportunity to rectify it, make him happy, and he stays with you. That's one aspect, immediate aspect. And second, it highlights the weak points in your service system. For example, you have been receiving complaints by different customers which essentially point out to one particular key area. That means, rather than each time addressing to such a complaint, of course that has to be done, but you have to address systematically to that particular point as well. That means something is wrong with your systems. Something is wrong with that particular process, or maybe that particular person. So first, it gives you an opportunity to satisfy the customer who was dissatisfied, who in turn would become then a loyal customer, would come back to you. Add to that, he'll spread a positive word of mouth which would bring in new customers. And secondly, it gives you an opportunity to rectify things, operations or system which are not proper or which have gone wrong, so that next time it does not happen. So I would repeat, encourage customers to raise their dissatisfaction, to communicate their dissatisfaction. Treat a complaint as a gift and treat the person who is complaining as a friend. To highlight the importance of word of mouth communication, how individual can influence your business, even a small business, I'm not talking of big corporates only, how word of mouth communication can have an impact on even small businesses. That's what the next slide talks about. Most customers know at least 500 other people. Okay, if you want to reduce this figure, maybe 100, 200, you can say whatever, but say generally. So, a small service business with only 1000 customers might be only one contact away from 5 lakh prospects. 1000 customers, each having 500 contacts, 5 lakh prospects. That is one reason why word of mouth can be so potent in the service sector. So never undermine the importance of word of mouth communication. And as I said, word of mouth communication is more important in case of services as compared to tangible goods, because services are rich in experience and credence qualities, and when we talk of experience and credence qualities, we rely more on word of mouth communication for getting information rather than on mass media or advertising. To select a doctor, rather than relying on the advertisement of a particular hospital or a doctor, you will rely more on experiences of your friends and relatives. For a movie, rather than relying on what newspapers say about that particular movie, maybe you would rely more upon comments of people who have actually seen the movie. Similarly, for educational services, a lot of schools are coming up these days, each highlighting, a lot of universities are coming these days, each highlighting that their services are excellent. Some photographs are given showing their state-of-art infrastructure. Of course, that makes a difference. But still, even after going through those glossy brochures and advertisement in televisions and color advertisements in newspaper, still before deciding on an educational institute, maybe you will get in touch with 10, 15, 20 different people. And you would rather prefer to contact someone who has actually availed services from that particular provider. So, importance of word of mouth communication. But as a marketeer, you might be thinking that, okay, word of mouth communication, which is something which a customer spreads, so how can I help about it? Of course, if I deliver good services, they will spread a positive word of mouth. If I deliver bad services, they will spread a negative word of mouth. Fine, that's a reasonable logical interpretation. But again, important issue is that as marketeers, you can also influence word of mouth communication. One important issue I had raised earlier in first few slides, that as marketeers you can also influence expectations. Now I am saying as marketeers you can also influence word of mouth communication, which otherwise seems as if is beyond your control. So what can you do? Now next slide says, although word of mouth publicity is free, programs to increase positive word of mouth and decrease negative word of mouth are not necessarily free. So that means you can do something about spreading a positive word of mouth. How is it possible? How can you encourage customers to say good about you? One, of course, is if they are happy with the services, they are delighted, they would say to a number of other people. But in addition to that, as marketers, can you do something? Yes. There could be incentive programs. A cellular service customer, if he recommends, say, 5 other customers to the service provider, maybe the service provider gives him some sort of benefit. A credit card user, if he recommends the name of, say, other prospects who actually then turn into customers, the credit card company would be giving some benefits, maybe some gift or something like that to the customers. Another thing could be you bring out maybe a newsletter or something on the website wherein you give experiences of customers, wherein customers actually say what sort of experiences they had while receiving services from that particular service provider. So, though word of mouth publicity is free, but as marketeers, you have to have programs wherein customers are encouraged to say positive about you. And for that, of course, first and foremost, if your services are not good, the quality of services which you provide is not good, customer won't say good about your services. But if your services are good, still customer may not spread that message, and at time he may be required some push, some incentive, some promotion, so that he says positive about you. And I had given you examples of different cellular provider or mobile phone and credit card companies which use such programs. If we go to the next slide, again, as I said, there's no particular sequence, but a broad philosophy about what marketing of services is all about. It costs several times more to attract a new customer than it does to retain an existing one. This is very crucial for services marketing. And that's where many companies falter. Nowadays, there's also in case of many mobile services provider, the key focus has been on attracting new customers. How to bring in new customers. You would see daily new schemes so that new customers are roped in. Of course, that's fine. Go in for that offensive marketing. But at the same time, don't forget about your existing customers. It's not that just to bring in new customer, existing customers are going out and your business keeps on, okay, you have fixed number of customers. No. In case of services, retaining existing customers is crucial to the health of the enterprise. How and why? First and foremost, it costs much more to attract a new customer than to retain one. See the promotional costs involved. The advertising, different sales promotion, okay, along with a new connection, a watch is given, along with a credit card, a free bag. Then agents move around soliciting customers. All these involve costs. In fact, some people say that it costs almost 6 times more to attract a new customer than to retain existing one. So it makes sense to focus on retaining existing customers. It's just one part of the story. If you see how the customers who stay with you, they become important for the company, then you will realize the bigger picture. More a customer stays with you, lesser would be the operational costs. Similarly, more a customer stays with you and is comfortable with you, maybe he buys more and more. Right? Also, the duration, the longer a customer stays with you, the more you know about that particular customer. A person going for a bike repair to the same mechanic time and again, the mechanic would know in and out of your bike and about your expectation. Similarly, in case of health services and other services also. So more a customer stays with you, you know more about him, and you can offer more customized offerings to him which your competitor cannot offer, because he doesn't know that much about you. And if you are in a position to offer customized offerings, you can even charge a premium pricing. So on the one hand, it costs more to attract a new customer than retaining one because of promotional costs. On the other hand, a customer who stays with you for a longer period of time, spends more and more with you, gives you an opportunity to provide him customized offering, thereby providing you an opportunity to charge a premium price, and also can spread a positive word of mouth. So that basically highlights how retaining customer is crucial in case of services. At this point of time, we'll stop here, and in the next session, we'll continue with our discussion on how services marketing is different and what are the key issues involved in marketing of services. So I'll stop at this particular point and we'll extend our discussion exactly after this particular point, wherein I've talked about importance of retaining existing customers. So thank you and look forward to seeing you again in the next session.